Welcome to the second part of the five-part video series. For those that do not know me, my name is Monica and I am the president of Suit Up. And joining me alongside are the executives for Suit Up, VP Marketing, which is Karen Opal, and VP Events, Herneet Samra. And today our guest is Sarah Ashton, who is from the Faith and Spirituality Center at the University of Calgary, and she specializes in mental health. So I guess I can just give it to Sarah to introduce herself.
Perfect. Thanks, Monica. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Ashton. So I am a registered social worker, and I recently started this job at the Faith and Spirituality Center, and we are under student wellness. So one of my big jobs is to support student mental health. Usually I focus on student spiritual mental health, and working from home has a huge impact on our spirit. And our mental health and our physical health and everything else. So I'm very excited to be talking to you guys today. And I'm even more excited. I looked you guys up online and Suit Up. You guys do such amazing work. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you, Sarah. That's really nice of you to say. I guess our first question will just start off a little bit general. So as you can see that the current pandemic has shifted us to a work from home setting. So what are kind of those general tips that one can use to take care of their mental health while working from home?
Yeah, well, general tips, that's a big question. But I guess, so we've all been working from home for the last year. I know for me in March, kind of the same as everybody else, we moved online. And it was very, very difficult. So I run a team of 21 faith representatives, and some of them are as old as 80. So teaching them how to work virtually is incredibly difficult. But it's also very difficult for students to ask them to continue to work and have the same level of motivation and same level of perseverance throughout this entire pandemic when stress levels are so high, and we're moving from being able to go on campus and study with all of our friends to being able to be at home and work from our beds. I've seen some people are working from, and not everybody has a desk, and not everybody has the tools to be able to properly work from home. So it is extremely difficult, and everybody is in different situations that make this entire work from home situation very different. But I think this is a really important conversation, because working from home, although we were told that we will be hopefully going back on campus in the fall, a lot of companies and organizations are learning that they can have their staff work from home, and then they don't have to pay for office space. And it actually works out a lot better for people because they get a more flexible work schedule. They get to be with their children more often. They get to be with their pets, which is the part that I love about it. As well as if you need accessibility, you're injured, you don't have to take the bus and go to work. If you have mental health issues, you can have a more flexible work schedule. So there's so many perks to working from home, but it has to be done right, I think. And I'm finding that we're all kind of learning this as we go, of what works and definitely what doesn't work as well. So I guess general tips. One of the things I wanted to talk about was trying to stay active from home, because I know that this is something that I've very much struggled with, and I know many other people have struggled with. It's even more difficult when the gyms are closed. Hopefully after this pandemic, if we are still working from home, we can at least have that separation of space and be able to go to the gym or go and play hockey or volleyball or go to the rock climbing or go swimming or go wherever you need to go to get your exercise. But right now, all of those places are closed, which makes it very, very difficult. You also find that when you start to work in offices, many of them have gyms within the offices. Many of them have buildings with lots of stairs that you would normally be climbing, or stand-up desks, or bike desks is something that we have in our office, which is so awesome. And we don't have those when we're working from home. So staying active is something that is very, very challenging. So what I wanted to talk about was that staying active has so many different benefits. There's weight loss, we reduce our risk of disease, we release endorphins and all the good neurotransmitters like serotonin that improve our mental health and just make us feel good and be able to focus. And for some people that have the tools at home, they can do at-home workouts. I've heard of people that have big boxing bags in their garages, or be able to set up mats in their garage, or they have treadmills or bikes or the tools at home when they have space. And for some people that works really well, but for some people that definitely doesn't. And some people are just rolling out like a little yoga mat in front of their TV, but they're having to move the coffee table, and that becomes really, really difficult. So I'm finding, and I'm sure other people are finding very similar things, that there's different tools that can help us with this. So online, there's many like 30-day yoga journeys, or 30-day like Zumba or HIIT or kickboxing, Pilates, whatever it is. There's different types of challenges, and that can help us to stay motivated. But we've also been in a pandemic for a year, far longer than 30 days. So I've done like 5 of these 30-day things, but then after it's done, then I don't want to exercise anymore. So then that affects me, and that affects everybody else too. So something that, as the weather gets warmer, I've decided to do, and many other people have decided to do, is to make sure that you go outside for at least 30 minutes a day. And this is really great for your mental health, because it also can disconnect you from the technology. Because you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is check your phone usually, and then maybe you have breakfast. Maybe you have breakfast in front of your computer, and you're in front of your computer all day. And so being able to go out for a walk really relaxes your eyes. It brings down your stress levels. It gets you outside and gets you in nature and gets you connected a little bit. It also gives you time to actually reflect and think on things instead of just go, go, go and doing things constantly. So it gives you a little bit of time for yourself. It is really beneficial if you do this kind of during your lunch break. I've heard of many people that live in better neighborhoods than I do, that they can walk to their local coffee shop. The local coffee shop is like 2 hours away from my house because I live in the suburbs. But if you live downtown, you can walk to your local coffee shop. Or you could just walk your dog, or you can just go on a walk and be outside. So if you can't do at home workouts also, and if you have kids, or if you have family members, younger siblings, it's not very fun to do an at-home workout anyway. So this is a great way to at least get outside and get moving a little bit. And then another thing just about staying active is just keeping your eyes active as well. There's this rule 20-20-20. So it's every 20 minutes that you've been staring at a screen, look outside, look 20 meters away for 20 seconds, and that will hopefully rest your eyes. Because I know one of the worst parts of working from home, and I'm sure I was recently a student, and I know how often I stared at my computer, and you basically do it from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, is that your eyes get so exhausted. So make sure you take a little bit of time to rest your beautiful eyeballs, because it is so difficult. Yeah, is there any other questions? Things I can help answer?
Yeah, I could probably ask the next question. So that would just be like, how can one find the work-life balance while working from home? Because I know it can be really easy to just work throughout the whole day instead of like knowing when to stop working and when to kind of chill at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been a struggle for everybody. And I think that's a big struggle for students as well, but professionals also. Something that I know that many people have experienced is if you're working from home, say your schedule is, and my schedule is 8:30 to 4:30 every single day, but maybe in the middle of the day my laundry is done, so I'll go fold my laundry, and that takes me like 20 minutes, so I'll work like 20 minutes overtime, and then I try to flex my hours a little bit. So that actually doesn't work and is very like counterintuitive to how our brains work. Because when we're at work, we take our drive to work, or our bus ride to work, or to school, and that's kind of turning off our our at-home time and turning on our work or school time. And we can switch our brains very easily. Whereas when we're going from our bed to our desk, or our bed from our bed, if that's where you're working, or your bed to your couch, if that's where you're working. And quite often I'm working from my couch too, which is the place that I lounge, which is also not what you're supposed to do. So don't learn from me. Learn from me. Don't take the things that I do. So it's very important to have a separate workspace from your lounging space, because our mind needs that disconnect to be able to actually fully relax. And it's also very important to make sure that you have a start time and you have an end time at your work. So you're actually working from 8:30 to 4:30 with your 15-minute breaks and your half an hour at lunch. Because working from home is so flexible, that's like one of the best things from working from home. But then it's so easy to overwork. And then it's so easy to be like, oh, I did my laundry, which took like maybe 20 minutes. So I'll just work like an extra hour. And then you fall into this trap of working way more than what you're actually getting paid to work. And so you are not your 9 to 5. You are so much more, and you get paid to work from only your 9 to 5, or you're only your 8:30 to 4:30. So make sure that you're doing that and you're actually taking your time to rest. And if you're not taking that time to rest, you're not going to be very helpful at your work anyways. You're not going to be very productive during those work hours if you can just continue to work afterwards. So try your best to work during those times. I know it's difficult, and I know sometimes I get emails afterwards that I still answer, but do try your best to work during that time, because that can be really great for our mental health and actually help us be more productive during our shift also. I do have another thing that has worked for me with that work-life balance is planning workday activities after work. That kind of helps us be able to take off the one hat and put on the other one. So whether it's like going grocery shopping or cleaning your house, so then you're not doing it during your shift, or it's going shopping, watching a movie, basically anything. Hopefully after the pandemic, it's something that gets us out of the house. Right now, it's very difficult to get out of the house, but anything after your shift that can help you kind of de-stress and take your mind off of work is so important. And then just one more thing on that would be to put on your work clothes at the start of the day. Get ready like you're getting ready for work. And then when your shift is done, like, ladies, take off your bra, take off your tie, put on a hoodie, and just be out of that work clothes attire. Get relaxed and get cozy, because then that can help us kind of separate that work and home life. So I do know it's very difficult.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. I guess one thing you mentioned with working from home is that flexibility. And I guess like with students like us, sometimes flexibility leads to procrastination. So how do you think you would avoid procrastination when working from home? Because we also see that there are a lot of distractions in one's environment, like the TV, playing with your pet, or even just talking to your family member who's sitting across you. So how would you actually avoid procrastination in this situation?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And students, like, you guys have been doing this for a year, so you kind of know what works and what doesn't work. But you're right, it's so easy, like at school or at work, for that to be your work time or for that to be your school time. Whereas when you're at home, you're right, there's a TV, there's a dog, there's your family there's really good food in the fridge, there's so many other things that you could be doing. And there's also no supervisor to be watching you and to kind of keep you accountable. So that kind of ups the ante. If you get your jobs done, then your job is done, right? So I understand. It can be really difficult to not procrastinate. And motivation can be so hard, especially if you've been staring at a screen all day long. One thing that really helps me to stay motivated, or at least to get my tasks done, is that at the start of the week, Monday morning or whatever day you start your week at, is I make a list. And so it seems like it's like counterproductive, because it takes me like a full hour usually to plan out, to look at all my emails, to plan out exactly what my week is going to look like, what do I have to get done? What are the important things? What am I not thinking about? What's going to be in a month that I need to start planning for now? And I spend that time creating a list, like a physical list, not one on my computer because my computer has updated and I've lost my list, which was really sad. So a physical list. Also, because a physical list, if you cross out items on a physical list, that can release dopamine into our bodies, which can help with our mental health as well. There's something that feels really good about crossing off a task. So that is kind of my trick to helping with motivation. But also just like, you are not superhumans. You are all incredible people, but you are not superhumans. So if you have a certain amount of time to get done your tasks, then allot that certain amount of time to get done your tasks. And hopefully you can stay motivated enough to be able to get those things done. Because if not, you do end up, you're right, it's flexible. And so you do end up being like, oh, I have all night to do this. I can do this until midnight. Which doesn't always work very well, as I'm sure you guys have figured out. But I'm curious to hear also what's worked with procrastination with other students, because I think everybody is very much struggling with this, and people struggle with this on a normal year. That's not during a pandemic. That's not when we're working from home. So I'm also very curious to hear what you guys have come up with tricks about staying motivated and not procrastinating. Monica, do you have any tricks?
I think like you and I are similar in terms of making lists. I have my own agenda and I always like plan beforehand and ensure that I can always finish all my assignments like way before the due date, so I don't have to worry about it later. So that kind of keeps me motivated to like get it done, and then I have more time to like relax and focus my priority somewhere else. But I think maybe Hernie and Karen, if you guys want to add in what you guys do.
Yeah, I agree. I pretty much just have like a calendar and I have all my due dates written on that calendar, and it is really satisfying ticking those off. But I'll be honest, there are some weeks where I'm just like, do I really got to do this? But you just get through it at the end of the day. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the ways that I stayed motivated was just trying to keep myself busy. I think like if you don't keep yourself busy, you start to like just become demotivated of like doing anything. I also keep a calendar, but sometimes I definitely procrastinate. That I think I have a habit of doing. But yeah, like just trying to keep yourself on task and like create those deadlines, even if it's like just an hour a day, it will definitely help you in the end to finish your project. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, you're so right, Karen. Like if we have a time where we're resting for a little bit, it makes it very difficult to go hard the next week. So that keeping a routine of, yeah, you don't have anything due this week, so you can sleep in every single day, like that's not going to work with you, and that's not going to benefit you next week. So you got to make sure that you try your best to set your alarm every single morning, eat breakfast at the same time, and like try your best to stay at least somewhat busy. So then you're not going like very, very busy, not very busy, very, very busy, not very busy, because that's hard on our bodies instead of staying at this nice level time and trying to get things done when we're in that not busy time. Because you're right, it's the same as like going to the gym or these 30-day workouts. Once you're done those, then it's really hard to pick another thing up afterwards. So thank you guys. And Harneet, sorry. You are also so right that sometimes it can be just so difficult, and we need to be able to kind of forgive ourselves for those times when we just can't get things done. And we also need to be able to forgive others as well. I think during this pandemic, so many people have really lacked the motivation to even be able to reach out to their friends or to respond to texts. And so we're all kind of experiencing this huge struggle, and we need to be able to forgive ourselves when we're not reaching out to our friends or not getting our work done, because building up our shame of not being able to do our work is not going to be helpful for us in the future as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another hard aspect of working from home can be that it is just so isolating as well. Like you don't get to see your coworkers on a regular basis or um, other students on a regular basis. So my question would be, how could one maintain a social life while like still working at home?
That's a very good question. Um, and it's hard when we're working from home because it's very natural to have like at, in a work environment we call it like the water cooler talk of being able to run into our coworkers and just like have conversations about things and get things done and to talk about goals and whatever's going on in their lives and get to know people, whereas that like natural connection doesn't happen when we're all working from home. My hope is that we can eventually go back to work, and hopefully for those that are also still working from home, that they can have some days in the office too. So then they're not completely at home, because I know what we saw was when everyone went from being from the office to working from home, there was actually a huge spike in production because we were switching up our location a little bit. And people were like, oh, I'm no longer talking to people and being distracted, so I can get way more done. And now we're like, oh, I'm really isolated and I'm not getting stuff done because I'm not talking to people. So like that switch in space is so, so helpful. But staying connected to people is something that has to be like very intentional when you're working from home or when you're studying from home. It means reaching out to friends, which you don't always have the motivation to do. Um, Something that we've done at the Faith and Spirituality Center that's been really successful is we have like a specific study time for students. And so it's like a virtual study group where people can kind of gather and hold each other accountable, as well as kind of get that socialization out of the way. And so the volunteers at the FSC, Faith and Spirituality Center for short, we call it the FSC. The volunteers all kind of get together and they'll talk, do like a round table, how's everyone doing? And then they spend 30 minutes studying and then 10 minutes socializing, and then 30 minutes studying and 10 minutes socializing. So if you have a group of friends, then that can be a way of getting together where you're both studying and being productive and getting your stuff done. And that way you can kind of also hold each other accountable, because there's something about having another person watch you study that makes you not pick up your phone or play with your dog or do other things that are very distracting. And that way you can also get a little bit of socializing in, which is also very helpful to being able to learn, because this being isolated is not an awesome learning environment because you're not having those conversations, those deep conversations about getting to know other people and getting other perspectives. So there's definitely like a big part this year that we missed in our university as well.
One of the questions that I have for you is that we've seen a lot of negatives relating to work from home and online communication, but what is like your opinion regarding like the benefits of or like the good side of work from home and like online communication?
Ooh, okay. Some of the good things. This is nice because, I also hear a lot of the negatives all the time, and it's so easy for us to get in there. But things that I've heard and that I've experienced is we don't have to drive to school. And I work at the university, so my experience is kind of similar to yours. We don't have to commute. We don't have to take the train. Those early morning train rides where everyone was packed in there like sardines were not fun. We don't have to wait in line for the microwave, which is so great. In Mac Hall, we don't have to find a table anymore, and we don't have to wander over and over and over again, which is kind of sad. And I miss those experiences. But I remember when we all went online, that was one of the best things. Was I was like, I have a place to eat, and I have a microwave, and I don't have to wait for it, and I have a fridge full of food, so I don't actually have to buy food unless I want to. And nutritional food. You don't have to make your lunch in the morning. You get to wear sweatpants if you want, and you can just wear yourself a fancy shirt. Zoom has a filter on it, so then you can look beautiful and you don't have to do your makeup. Like, there is a lot of perks to being able to work from home. Also, the fact that we've had to be very, very flexible and very creative with the way that we communicate. I now can communicate with my entire team over chat, and we're constantly talking to each other. it's very different than being able to run into each other and chat. But it's also very nice for now when we go back into the workplace. If I have a student that comes to my office and says like, hey, I need to talk to someone now, I can message all of the faith leaders and be like, hey, I need someone to the front desk like right now. And I can get someone to the front desk right now. So we've had to be very, very creative. One of the best things that I think that I will be keeping, and I really hope that other people keep after the pandemic, is having their programs be online. It would be nice if things could be online as well as in person, but like last night I did a program from 8:30 to 9:30 with a whole bunch of doctors all throughout the country, talking about COVID-19. And there was all these different faith leaders within the country that were asking their questions to these doctors and these specialists. And that was so awesome. I'm like, this kind of stuff could not exist if we weren't all online. And we've been able to we do something called sacred space visits, where we would normally take students to different sacred spaces within Calgary. And it's awesome. And we usually learn from the faith leaders, and we kind of have different practices, and we can ask questions, and we can kind of rid ourselves of the misconceptions that people have. We were able to do that with a whole bunch of places throughout, well, North America, because the time change makes it a little bit difficult. But we were able to go to like a synagogue in Toronto, and we were able to go to a temple of witchcraft, which does not exist in Canada, one in the States. And so like the fact that we can do these things and we can also create community with places that are nowhere near us is something that I think is so beautiful. And I would really love if we kept that up after the pandemic as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. The other last question for me is, what types of signs indicate like mental health is like maybe like decreasing, or like the person is kind of suffering from that, I guess, or just kind of going through the mental illness? Like what types of signs would there be, and like what types of resources would people go to at UFC to just kind of be able to relax?
That's a really good question. And the signs are going to be different for everybody. And so there's this big misconception that people think that they're not depressed until they're thinking about suicide. And that's not the case. Depression can look like so many different things. It can look like being upset in your stomach and not wanting to eat for a while. It can be not being able to sleep, or having like a very messed up sleep schedule compared to normal. And so you'll be able to feel it in your body. And it might happen for a really long time, and it might happen very, very slowly too. So you might not even notice if it's happening to you or your friends. It might look like what we were talking about before, where we're not reaching out to our friends all the time. And that just may be a lack of motivation, but it also means that you need to reach out and you need to get some help. And whether that's talking to your friends or doing things that are very intentional for yourself and for your mental health, or going to see like a professional. And at the university, we have a number of professionals that we can talk to. So we have a whole bunch of new counselors. And so this year is our first year where we actually don't have any wait list to go talk to a counselor. And it's our first year that we have online booking, which is awesome because millennials and Gen Z hate talking on the phone. So now you can book online, which is so great. So if you just Google like University of Calgary Wellness Services, even I think just wellness, it'll take you right to that online booking form. And then they could get you in with a counselor within that week, which is really nice. And then you can have someone to talk to. The westernized version of counseling is not always appropriate for everybody. And so there's also a lot of other options that are available. So at the Faith and Spirituality Center, for example, we have like 21 different faith leaders of many different faiths that you can talk to, and they'll be kind of that listening ear for you and be able to give like a bit of spiritual help, but also some of them are just really great listeners. There's also peer support groups, and there's many peer support groups on campus, and they're becoming more and more popular. So that's where students, and usually it's like psych and nursing and social work students, but also it can be students from any faculty. These are students that are trained in being able to listen and listen actively and kind of help send you to the right resources. So there's a peer support group within or I shouldn't say peer support group, because groups are more, when you imagine that, it's like sitting with many other people talking about your problems. And there are those, but this is usually like a one-on-one, hey, I need someone to listen to me and I need to talk to someone. The Women's Resource Center has a peer support group. The Q Center has a peer support group. The Wellness Center has a peer support group. And the social work faculty has a peer support group. So there's 4 on campus of trained students that are very much there, that want to help you, and they're trained in being able to listen to you and listen to you without judgment, which is always so nice, because I know talking to your friends can be very difficult. And sometimes it can be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm overloading on you, or I'm dumping all this information on you, and I know you have your own problems. Sometimes when you're talking to a professional or you're talking to a student that is there to listen to you, you don't have to worry about dumping your problems on them, because they're there to listen to you and they're there to help. And then there's many different offices. So if you're Indigenous, there is Writing Symbols Lodge, and they have staff there that are ready to listen to you, and elders there that are ready to listen to you. There's also like the Student Success Center, and they have study groups, which is nice, and that helps you create like a sense of community, which is always awesome. And then they also have a bunch of staff there that are there to listen to students and hook you up with the right resources if you're struggling with school and it's affecting your academics. There is the Women's Resource Center and the Q Center. And there's probably a couple other ones that I'm not thinking about right now, but there's many different resources on campus and a ton of staff that's doing a bunch of work. And everyone that I've worked with is incredibly compassionate and is there to help students along the way. And everyone at the University of Calgary has a degree. And so we've gone through these experiences and we know how difficult it is. And we know how difficult it is when you're a student and you're not in a pandemic. So this is a whole nother level. So there's many different ways that you can reach out. But I think the difficult part is actually saying, like, I am really struggling right now. Something is going on. I have just not felt good for a long time and I need to reach out to somebody. I think that's probably the most difficult part for a lot of people.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I guess like when we post this video, we'll post a list of resources so students can access them. And I'm pretty sure like I didn't even know some of these resources existed, and then I'm in my final year. So thank you for telling us that. And I guess that kind of ends where all of our questions that we had for you. Is there anything else you would like to add, or any closing remarks you would like to give?
I want to just thank you guys for having me on here. This has been so awesome, and you are all doing such incredible work. I would really like to actually partner with you guys in the future, so we can talk about that later. But I guess just as like a closing remark, something that I didn't do when I was in school that I really wish everyone would do, because I very much regret it, is take advantage of all the free programming that you get when you're in school. Like, there's so many speakers and so many free trainings. Like, you can take Assist for free, which is suicide intervention training. And that's normally like a couple $100s, and you can take that for free. And at the Faith and Spirituality Center, we have cultivating compassion training. And that's normally $600 to take, and you can take it for free because you're a student. And I know that there's many others that are like that on campus. So take advantage of those and boost your resume, because it's very competitive out there. And you're a student. So try to learn as much as you possibly can. I know it's hard right now when you're already learning all your classes, but things also run in the summer too. So if you get the chance, take as many trainings, listen to as many speakers as possible. And I think that is it for me. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on board with this idea and giving out your time. We know that you're a busy individual, so really appreciate you spending your morning with us. And yeah, we definitely would like to partner with you in the future too. So looking forward to that collaboration.